Hello. Oops. There. This is better. Here we go. Hello. Here we are. Hi there. Well, yesterday's divination could not have been more accurate, really. It said yesterday that if I went and just was doing any traveling, that that traveling would be delayed in some way and there would be lots of unexpected stops. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, but in the best possible way. I had to drive down to Sacramento, which is a 3.5 hour drive from my house, brought the little baby kitty. He was a champ on the journey. He meowed for like the first hour, but then after that, he settled down and he got into his flow, which was fantastic. And then he went into his mom's house and she was so happy to have him back. And then after that, I had this, I was just going to turn right around and head home, and I had had no delays so far. Good morning. And so then as I went to go home, I realized, wait a minute, I am in a city. There are all kinds of things here that I don't have at home. So I went over to the mall. I went to the makeup store and I went to the auto parts store and I went to the technology store and got things that we were needing for our home, for our car, for our business. And I got myself some new eyeliner. And it was just like a really fun way for that divination to come to pass. So I thought I'd share because it was like a whimsical expression of that divination that, yes, it's true. There were tons of unexpected stops, but that those unexpected. And the other thing is, when I drive home from coming south to north, there's this, as you can imagine, I'm a middle-aged woman. I know every bathroom between, I know every bathroom along I-5 so that I can go anywhere. But I went and I found the gas station. There's this one gas station along the way that I walked in and I was like, wait, I haven't been in this gas station in years. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, this is the gas station with the good sunglasses. So that was my unexpected adventure yesterday. And I really needed a little bit of just a fun adventure. So I'm very glad that I did it. And I hope everybody had a good day. I've been tracking, I have to say, I've been tracking closely the situation as it's unfolding in Texas. And I am just so sorry. And today we're going to dedicate practice again to all of the people who are, oh, thank you, Jessai, to all the people who are struggling. One of my good, friends and long-term clients, the pipes under her house burst. I read this morning about people literally with their hair dryers trying to defrost their pipes. So let's send a little extra loving warmth to everyone in Texas who is going through such a difficult time right now. Okay, so today's form of Guanyin. I didn't get home until like 10:30 at night. It was like the latest I've been out and the most I've done in a long time. Guanyin of Serenity. Keyword is anchoring and grounding. Guanyin sits on a small rock amid the ocean surf. She has put her palms together and rests in deep contemplation. In this form, she protects sentient beings who are the victims of disaster or those who are at death's door. Well, this is a very appropriate Guanyin then for our intention today, and I'll show her to you. So there she is on Facebook. Thank you, Leslie. That's funny. I love it. And see, oh, the glare. The glare. Okay, I'm going to come in closer. There we go. Guanyin of Serenity, perched on a rock in the middle of the waves of the ocean, protecting beings who are the victims of disaster. That is exactly who we're dedicating our practice to today. When we experience a disaster or bad luck, we become disoriented. We feel helpless in the face of the situation, and we can lose sight of our path. Fundamentally, we humans are subject to our emotions and instincts, and we travel the cycle of rebirths without gaining a much greater overview. Usually, we become even more confused as we approach death because we are reluctant to leave this world. The Lotus Sutra says, if they have great wrath and ire, let them think with constant reverence of the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world's sounds, and then they can shed their ire. If they have great ignorance and stupidity, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world's sounds, and they will rid themselves of stupidity. And stupidity is not pejorative in this case. It's really that meant to reference that kind of willful ignorance that sometimes we hold, where we're just like, nope, like, it can't be true, this bad thing or this difficult thing or whatever, and where we kind of willfully turn away, which is a very common human coping mechanism when there's trauma. So, we want to be present. We want to be present for everything, not just for the good, but also for the bad, so that we can learn. And it doesn't mean that we want bad things to happen. It's just that we acknowledge that they do. And this is why a lot of times the teaching about life is suffering in Buddhism really turns people off. It gets them feeling depressed and scared, and they're like, ugh, and under a patriarchal lens, yeah, that truth does come down really harsh and ugly, like life is suffering, like a judgment. But it's not that. Life has suffering, and all of us wish it were just joy. But the reality is, in our lives, we will face suffering, and we need to learn not to turn away from it, but to engage with it, because through that gate of suffering, we often will find ourselves back in the fields of joy. But there's a lesson to be learned, or there's an obstacle to be, faced, or there's a soul evolution that needs to happen. And so being able to cultivate really strong, courageous, and brave hearts in the face of suffering, in the face of tragedy, strengthens us. It makes us more equipped for the rest of the journey. Because, and raise your hand if you're over 40, it doesn't get easier. It's not like, oh, now I'm a grown up and it's easier. When you're a kid, you kind of think, oh, I can't do anything. I really want to be able to do stuff. When I'm older, I'll be able to do stuff. But then when we get older and we have to do all the stuff, it's not as easy or as fun as we thought maybe it would be sometimes. So for us to be able to say, disasters do happen. If this isn't a sentence, this isn't a judgment, this is an acknowledgement of the reality of life. Disasters do happen. Loss does happen. Pain does happen. Then when we see it for what it is, we can say, all right, how will I make use of the best possible step? And now people are commenting on my sunglasses, so I'm going to tell you, because this is a perfect time. Hang on, let me get them. So, what are you going to do? You going to pretend there's no suffering in the world? Or are you going to go ahead and put on your rose-colored glasses and find the gem in the suffering? These are my magic glasses. They help me see the joy on the other side of the suffering. So, joking aside, when we get this card, or when we receive this card, when we, contemplate Guanyin of Serenity, connect with Guanyin of Serenity when your sight is blurred by emotion and you've lost your bearings. In this painting, she is as firm as the rock that she sits on and fully centered. You may tune into her and re-anchor within yourself and find peace no matter how high the waves are. Really powerful form of Guanyin for us to work with amidst this disaster, as we're holding space for all of the Texans who are suffering and struggling right now. Not to mention all the other places where there's also suffering because of the weather. But today we are on number 16 of the poems. Wonder. This is not the moment for a long face or a frown. Throw your fears out of your mind and let the joy in. It's like finding a piece of jade in the middle of the dung heap. The workman stands and wipes the dirt off it with wonder. That's beautiful. I love that. That's the Manhoquok translation. Now let's hear the Chris Wen Chao Li translation, number 16. Promising outlook. Find temporary relief from your sorrows and your cares. Break through the cloud and see the light of day, like precious jade buried under heaps of dung, retrieved by a craftsman who wipes the soil away. Wow, very true, very straight line between those two translations. And in a reading, your successes will come with no strings attached, and where there are losses, some good will come of it. All is well for those who are virtuous at heart, and the opposite is true for those who lack morals. The imagery of yin and yang in perfect harmony is the vision here. And the final annotation in this translation is, all is well. So hopefully all is well. And yeah, Leslie says, joy is your birthright. That's exactly right. It's hard to remember that when we're sort of faced with the fact that suffering is also our birthright, right? You know, we're going to have it either way. But remembering the joy is so important. And I think a lot of us have been really hard pressed this past month or two to remember the joy at this, as we come upon this anniversary of 1 year of coronavirus changing us all forever. So here's the Stephen Karcher translation. A long, anxious face is not the thing now. Forget your cares. Yeah, I'm having a hard time right now finding joy. Let's all send a little joy to each other today. Just send it out with a lot of love. You all get a little sprinkle of joy. If I had glitter right now, I'd throw it. A long, anxious face is not the thing now. Forget your cares and enjoy what life offers you. A workman's capable hands clear away the dust that hides a precious jade. So this thing, the jade, has been mentioned in all three of these divinations. You all who've been with me since November know what that means. Let's go find our jade beads, bracelets, jewelry, earrings. If you have any piece of jade, tuck it in your bra, carry it in your pocket, wear some jade today as a reminder and also as a protective talisman and as a joy bringer. Let's say today to the universe, to Guanyin of Serenity, if I just can get my bearings in my meditation this morning, will you please send a sign that there's some joy? Okay, we're going to do that. Will you please send a sign that there's some joy? Put things to the proof, submit to the ordeal, separate wheat from chaff by divination. It's the time of the seed and the hidden pearl. Rely on the ancestors' wisdom, honor the ancestors, the old ones and the dead. And when you found hidden treasure, why be sad? Yes, exactly. So here are some of the divinatory meanings of this. Your household enjoys an enviable harmony that will last. You will benefit from it particularly in the fall and the winter. Count on an extraordinary success in business and considerable increase in your profits. Find your hidden reserves of creative energy. Plan for a significant relationship that will flourish. You will soon be connected at the heart with one that you love. Don't go to court. The chances are against you. Settle out of court in a friendly fashion. Don't change your home. Your present place has all you need, so we're not moving today. And if you're unwell, go to the doctor. Don't handle illness carelessly. It can become wearisome. So let's today go ahead and allow joy. Let's ask for that little proof that the joy will come. Let's surrender to Guanyin of Serenity and say, even though I myself might not be able to do much to help the people of Texas, I myself could hold space for them and find little ways to send them joy psychically. Or if you know someone in Texas, you could send them something wonderful. It may or may not get there right away, but that's okay. It's, the thought that counts to get it started so that there will be something wonderful that happens for them. And even if it's in time. And let's remember today that every bit of suffering we've endured so far is ultimately going to point the way toward something of value in our spiritual path. A truth, a learning, a strength, a hidden strength that emerges, or a knowledge or better coping. And if that's all we get from it, it's enough. So that's our short bit for today. I'm wishing everyone a good weekend if that's what you were here for. And otherwise, let's begin our practice with 3 prostrations before the shrine of Guanyin. And let's take refuge. Namo Guru Be. I take refuge in the inner teacher. Namo Buddhaye. I take refuge in the great mother of compassion. Namo Dharmaye. I take refuge in the wisdom of the ages. Namo Sanghaye. I take refuge in the community of practitioners. And let's set our intention again today for all of those who are suffering in Texas with the power outages, the storm, the freeze, all of those difficulties. That those difficulties will be rectified swiftly, that all those who have been without power or water will see the resumption of their services quickly, that people will have what they need. And let's recite the 4 immeasurables. May I be a source of loving kindness in this world and all worlds, bringing a generous heart to all my thoughts and doings. May I be a vehicle of compassion in this world and all worlds, ever mindful and aware of the tremendous suffering of others. May I be a brimming vessel of joy in this world and all worlds, delighting in the happiness of others as their suffering is alleviated. May I be a balance point of equanimity in this world and all worlds, seeing all as equals and all as deserving of goodness. I light this candle as a symbol of the enlightening Dharma way. May it shine brightly for the benefit of all beings. I light this incense as an offering for Guanyin, she who hears the cries of the world, mother of all. Omahum. 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 Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and virtual. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the meditation of all holy and ordinary beings. Please, Guanyin, remain until the end of samsaric existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of others to the great enlightenment. 108 recitations now of Namo Guanyin Pusa, calling upon the perceiver of the cries of the world, who helps us to steady and stabilize ourselves even when things are difficult. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. Namo Guanyin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanyin Pusa. When we have the opportunity to be what's needed for someone else, sometimes that little spark of hope that we can bring to them gives us hope in our hearts as well. So let's try that today. Wherever there is space, 5 elements pervade. Wherever the 5 elements, the homes of living beings. Wherever living beings, karma and defilements. Wherever is defilement, my compassion is also. Wherever is the need of beings, there I am to help them. To the hungry I was heaps of food and all good things, and thus I brought them joy. To the cold and freezing I was fire and sun warmth, thus their joy. To the poor and needy I was wealth and riches, thus their joy. To the naked I was every kind of raiment, thus their joy. To the childless I was sons and daughters, thus their joy. To those who sought a lover, I was a loving and attractive consort, and thus their joy. To those who wanted magic powers, I gave prowess in the 8 great cities, and thus I brought them joy. To the sick I was their remedy, and thus their joy. To the anguished I was all their mind desired, and thus I was their joy. To those hard pressed by the punishments of despots, I was the loving friend to lead them to the land of peace, and I was thus their joy. To those in fear of wild beasts, I was a haven, thus their joy. To those who fell into the depths, I was their drawing out, and thus their joy. To those tormented in the fires, I was a quenching stream, and thus their joy. To those in prey to any of the elements, I was their medicine, and thus their joy. For those who could not see, I was their eyes and brought them joy. And for those who could not walk, I was feet, and thus their joy. I was a tongue for those who could not speak, and thus I brought them joy. To those in fear of death, I granted immortality, and thus I was their joy. I led the dying on the path of transference and brought them joy. To those who wandered in the bardo state, I was their spirit guide, bringing them to joy. I cooled the burning heat and warmed the cold of those lost in the realms of hell. Howsoever they were tortured, I changed myself to shield them, being thus their joy. To those who lingered in the land of hungry ghosts, I was their food and drink, and thus their joy. I was freedom from oppression and servitude for those caught in the wordless state of beasts, and thus I brought them joy. Those beings born in places of war, I protected them from strife and brought them joy. I was a truce from endless conflict for the demigods, and I was thus their joy. The jealous gods I guarded from their bitter fall, and I was thus their joy. I shielded all from everything that tortured them, and was their every joy. So now, holding in our minds and hearts the aspiration that all beings have some spark that leads them to hope today, let's do the 108 recitations of Om Mani Padme Hum. And when we are envisioning that all beings will have a spark of hope, we're included in all beings. So let's do it. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 And let's give thanks for our teachers. May all of my blessed teachers enjoy long, happy, healthy, productive lives and great support for their good works. May all beings benefit from their wisdom. May they enjoy a swift and happy rebirth. And long life prayer for Lama Dechen Yeshe Wangmo. Om Sosti. Through the powerful blessings of the immortal Pema Jungye and his consort, may the three secret qualities of the Dakini of Supreme Bliss Yeshe Wangmo be utterly stable, and may the light of her activities shine on the lotus groves of the teachings and of beings, so that they blossom in radiant splendor. And let's dedicate the merit. May the merit of this practice and all of my activities be of endless benefit to all beings in all realms, beginningless and continuous. May all obstacles be overcome and suffering cease at the sound of liberation. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May we carry the essence of Guanyin in our hearts. Namo Guanxian Pusa. And we close with a bow to Guanyin, bow to one another, and bow to the inner teacher. Wishing everyone a great day, a great weekend. Give that little spark of joy to someone else, that little spark of hope, if you can, to someone else, and see how uplifting it is to do that for yourself. And don't forget, our suffering isn't here to tear us down. It's actually here as part of life, and we can, in fact, draw strength and wisdom from it. Take care. Bye.